we are back with Christian Apologetics this morning. And now we're going to begin into our next section, but we start with this. This is from a philosopher. His name was Antony Flew. He died a number of years ago. Antony Flew debated Thomas Warren back in the 70s. Antony Flew was an atheist, but later in his life became a theist. He reasoned his way out of atheism, and he says this. He wrote a book, There Is a God, How the World's Most Notorious Atheist Changed His Mind. And he's not a nobody. All right, I would just say that in the world of philosophy or the world of academia or even the world of atheism until he turned, then they hated him. But he was a philosopher. He did have articles concerning philosophy in places such as Encyclopedia Britannica. But science spotlights three dimensions of nature that point to God. Now, that doesn't mean that he necessarily believed the God of the Bible. He's a theist. There is a difference between someone who's a Christian and someone who's a theist. A theist believes there is a God and just hasn't settled on, there's got to be one, there's got to be somebody, but doesn't know quite who that is, or hasn't come to a conclusion. Now, so we start all over again. Science spotlights three dimensions of nature that point to God. The first is the fact that nature obeys laws. The second is the dimension of life of intelligently organized and purpose-driven beings which arose from matter. The third is the existence of nature. That is Antony Flew from his book. Now, there are two basic models that, and when we're talking about models, we're talking about scientific models. You can believe this over here, or you can believe this over here, and but look at the evidence for either one. There's the creation model, and then there is the naturalistic model, also referred to as the atheistic model. All right, the creation model says God created all things as described in Genesis. Now, someone can believe in a creation model and it have nothing to do with Genesis. That is, it was the Babylonian gods that did this, or the Greek gods that did this, or the Aztec gods that did this. There's all kinds of creation models, but what we're going to focus on is that of as described in the book of Genesis. Now, the naturalistic model, or the atheistic model, says that nature exists by nature, that there is nothing above nature, therefore nature produced nature. That's what they have to say. Either it's eternal nature, that is, all matter is eternal, or it came into being somehow, and since you're looking for a naturalistic cause, that means nature produced it. Now, is creationism a blind faith? And we're going to look at 6 reasons how it is not a blind faith at all. There's plenty of blind faiths that are out there, but creationism, as described from the Bible, is not blind at all. And this is coming from Jeff Miller, who works at Apologetics Press. The first one is that evidence contradicts the naturalistic model. All right, the available evidence contradicts the atheistic model, which logically leaves theism, the creation model. Since you have two models, there is nothing else here. If this one is proved wrong, you only have one option. It comes to this. All right, that's what he's stating. Now we come to verse 2, or point 2. Evidence supports the creation model. The fundamental evidence that contradicts the naturalistic model supports the contentions of the creation model, which never contradicts the scientific evidence. That's what we have been saying through this class, is that every time that science finds something new, Genesis doesn't have to be edited. or refigured, or that something just isn't quite right with Genesis, and we have to rethink things altogether and toss Genesis out. Genesis never has to move an inch. It never does. Every time that science finds things we did not know, it points to not just a creator, but an extraordinarily powerful and intelligent creator. Now, the next point, nature can't create itself. The existence and teachings of the laws of science demand a, look at this, non-material, that means something not from the material realm, demands a non-material, uncaused cause for the universe. That something had to cause the universe, but whatever caused the universe must be of itself or himself uncaused. Well, that points right to God. Everything in this material realm has a cause. Everything. You can think of it like being in a very large box. Everything in this box has to have a cause. But anything beyond, and is under the laws of nature and the laws of physics. Outside that box, well, that's a different matter. And we have God who is way outside this box, who created this box. He is uncaused. Now, we come to number 4, purpose and intelligent design. There are numerous natural evidences in the universe that exist the characteristics of intent, purpose, and complexity, which indicate a mind behind them. Such attributes testify to the presence of intelligent design, which implies, actually demands, a designer. It is not by accident that all the parts of your car work together. It's not by accident. It's not by accident that your tires fit your car. That's not by accident. It's not by accident that the engine in the car fits and connects to everything else that it needs to connect to in your car. That's not by accident. It's all by design and by intelligent design to boot. But when we look at all of creation and think that there couldn't be intelligent design, well, you just threw your mind away, is what you did. There's obviously an intelligent designer. And the more you look into it, the more you realize this is beyond everything. It's beyond everything. It is way too complex. And the fact that he did this in a matter of 6 days, speaking things into existence, he is, well, it just chills down my spine. Extraordinarily powerful, intelligent, foreseeing everything about him. Now we come to number 5, and this is the argument of morality. Objective morality exists. And you can pretend that it doesn't. And we talked about Nietzsche wishing that it didn't. And he's an atheist philosopher. And he wished he didn't have a conscience, but he knew he did. And he didn't know why it should bother him, but it did. And objective morality exists, which implies a higher law that transcends mankind, which in turn demands a supernatural author of morality, a lawgiver. Where there is a law, by necessity, there must be a lawgiver. Laws don't just float around in the ether. They don't just float around in nothingness until someone breaks those laws, or until there is something that it can apply itself to. That simply, that's an impossibility. Now, number 6, the Bible cannot be explained naturally. A book exists that contains certain characteristics that can only be explainable if it is what it says it is, the Word of the Creator. And this is where we're headed today. understanding this. This is the next part. The Bible is the Word of God. We have gone into that of proving and showing evidence by evidence and just absolutely skimming the top of there is a God, that we could spend an eternity literally looking at more and more and more and more and more of proof that there must be a God. It is not just a mountain of evidence, it's mountain ranges of evidence. But we're going to look at this. We're going to see from the Bible, evidence in nature of the way it describes nature, evidence in archaeology of the things that it speaks of historically or speaks of in other ways that archaeology has in fact found things to confirm the Bible. And we're also going to look at evidence in the text concerning prophecies and concerning knowledge that someone like Job shouldn't have had, or someone like Isaiah shouldn't have had, but did know. And where'd that knowledge come from? And yeah, I just saw it here recently. Actually, may have been yesterday. The claim that, and it is an absurdist claim, it's by somebody who either they know they're wrong and they're just lying, or they have no clue. But it was the idea that the Old Testament copied and borrowed from Greek mythology. But the funny thing about that is that the Hebrews, Moses and others were writing long before we get to the Greeks doing anything. Long before we get to any kind of philosophers, long before we get to anything actually being written down concerning their mythology. All this was already well into development. I'm talking about the Old Testament. Well into development. It predates the Greeks being much of anything. Yes, the Greek nation, we can see them beginning in that table of nations in Genesis chapter 10, coming out of Babel. But just because of that doesn't mean you spring into this complex sort of culture with everything built and everything figured out, because you don't. Now, the Bible is 1,400 years in the making. That's a long time. That's a lot of cultures. That's a lot of centuries. That's a lot of different people from different backgrounds. But we have approximately 40 authors. We don't know actually how many authors they are. We know some because it tells us who did it. We know that what Moses wrote because we see that. We know what Paul wrote because we see that. But we can't know all the authors at all. We can know certain psalms that David wrote. We have authors. The authors lived at different centuries. The authors were from different backgrounds. We have someone like Moses. How did Moses grow up? He was a prince. Yeah, he was in the royal family in a world power there in Egypt. That's where he grew up. He would have had an Egyptian background, though he's Hebrew. He would have had the teachings of the Egyptians as well as the teachings of the Hebrews. He knew that. He would have known of the various things that the Egyptians believed. But if you've ever looked at Egyptian writing and the writing of Moses, you see they're very different. It's not even close. Not close. But if you look at the writings of Moses and then the writings of Paul, who's coming many, many centuries later, Paul did not grow up in Egypt. He grew up in Tarsus. That's where, in Cilicia. He grew up and that's not northern Africa. All right, that's heading toward Europe is where that is. Paul, who is speaking a different language, Paul did not speak Egyptian until the Holy Spirit would allow him to speak Egyptian. He came from a different background. He did not come up as a prince. He came up as a Pharisee, the son of a Pharisee. He's very different. Do the writings of Paul and Moses clash, or do they mesh? No, they don't disagree. They don't disagree at all. Paul appeals to Moses, as a matter of fact, and he will reference Moses. And that you have very complex ideas that are found in the Bible. Ideas that can be debated by philosophers through the centuries, yet there's no debate in them in the Bible. Subjects such as love, or as human suffering, of where there is a dialogue through the book of Job. Most of the book of Job is a dialogue. It is a discussion between Job and his friends, and then there's a stranger who also happens in on it. Then there's God who is there. And there is this discussion of the things that happened to Job. Now, there's no contradictions found anywhere in this, even when we're dealing with some pretty tough, heavy subjects. Now, we also have the authors spoke different languages, already mentioned that. The authors were from different continents, also mentioned that. And how can there be this cohesion? How can there be this agreement through all of this when I mentioned the Encyclopedia Britannica just a few minutes ago? The Encyclopedia Britannica can't exist without, there will be contradictions in the Encyclopedia Britannica. There are contradictions in other books where you have different writers that are there, or even a single writer can contradict themselves. But it is not found here. And we have this challenge, actually this demand from the biblical text itself. It does not say you must believe this beyond any evidence, beyond anything that you know, beyond anything that you have discovered from the truth. You must believe this regardless. It says, test all things. And that means the biblical text. It means that, and then anything else as well. But put the biblical text to the test. Test all things, and then here comes the next one. Hold fast what is right. Have an honest heart involved in this. Have some honesty involved in this. Not an emotional response, but an honest, logical response in this. And we have mentioned this before, that those who go to prove there is a God, Buddhism does not have any kind of study concerning the existence and the proving of God. It doesn't. Islam doesn't have that either. It doesn't. Because both are coming from different directions. With Islam, you just believe and you don't think. That's and with the threat of all kinds of threats. But when it comes to the biblical text, it is calling for a testing. It's calling for you to put it to the test. It's asking you to do that. And once you have found the truth, keep that truth. Now, we just have to ask the question, does the Bible get it right? We're going to look at some things. Some things you're going to say, well, we've already discussed these before, but not when it comes to the text. And we need to, what I want to do is do this in a systematic sort of way, but also I've got to do it in, once again, kind of a skimming sort of way, and in looking at various things that the biblical text tells us. Now, we start with this. This is regarded as one of the best beginning sentences for a book. It is. By authors and those who study literature, this does go into one of the best beginning sentences. And it tells you what you need to know, and it sums it up. That's what this is. It tells you where did everything come from, then it's going to go into detail. But it sums it up first. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness He called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. Now, we're going to look at this for a moment. This is the 5 manifestations of natural phenomena. This was developed by Herbert Spencer in 1882, and it goes like this: time, force, motion or action, space, matter. These are the 5 manifestations of natural phenomena. Now, we're going to look at the creation model and what did God say. And by the way, this NASA photo has the best sort of name, as opposed to like Mars. Mars, I mean, that's a pagan god. All right, Jupiter's a pagan. Earth is not. Jupiter's a pagan god. This nebula, beautiful, is called, and this was properly named, this is called the Pillars of Creation. That is beautifully named. And, all right, what did God say? What do we have with the creation model? Creation model, we go to Genesis 1. In the beginning. All right, here we have the cause in blue. In the beginning, that is time. God, that is force. Created, that is motion or action. The heavens, that's space. And the earth, that is matter. All 5 of those, of the very things of nature, we see in the first sentence. We see that. Right there. Nothing is missing out of here. And we have cause and effect. Where did everything come from? Here we have everything. We're looking at the effect, and the atheistic model says, well, the effect is the cause. They've got to say that. Because if nature is bringing about nature, you have a cause bringing about a cause. That's what you have. The sooner someone learns that, the better off they're going to be. But we have cause and effect in every bit of this. Now, we look at day 1. Day 1, as we have said before, day 1 is not the creation of the sun. That's not until we get to day 4. This is light. Light can come from any sort of source, especially if God creates it. And it's everything about that. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. He speaks this into existence. And it is a very complex sort of thing, light is. Light consists of photons. But light, while it is a photon, is a subatomic particle. It behaves also as waves, like sound does, but in a different way. It is a particle behaving like waves, and it is a bit of a mystery And here on day one, he speaks this into existence, something that has to be on this earth. He called the light day and darkness, the darkness he called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. All right, so day and night did not exist before this. It didn't exist before this. He creates light and he divides the day from the night. And I need to press this. The evening and the morning were the first day. All right. That word day is the Hebrew word yom. Yom, day, can mean, by way of context, a number of things. It can mean a 24-hour period, or it can mean a longer period of time, such as the day of David. Well, that would mean during his lifetime. It's not a single day in his life, but it would be the day of the judges. That would be hundreds of years there. But this word day or yom, when it is put with a number, such as first day, it can only mean a 24-hour period. It can't mean anything else. Now, to double down on that this is a literal 24-hour period, is we have the evening and the morning were the first day. So it's one evening, one morning, one day. And that's it. It is, it's nothing other than a 24-hour period, a literal day or one rotation of the earth. That's what it means. Now, we need to look at this. Now we go to day 3. Okay, so I'm skipping day 2. I'm going to day 3. And we come to this. All right, beginning in verse 11. Then God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth. And it was so, and it continues to be so. All right, now people can deny it. People can talk about development of some sort of new plant. And I mean not a combination of plants that can be cross-pollinated or anything like that. That you can have a fern that turns into a rose bush. Well, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. That the seeds of a fern produce more fern. That's what they produce. You never have seeds being produced by a fern that now grows a pear tree. Now, and the earth brought forth grass, the herb that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And we need to understand the words kind in this. While you can have a variety of something, it is in the kind. It is, we can think of it like a family of a specific plant. And so the evening and the morning were the third day. Once again, we have that same pattern, evening, morning, and the number, which limits it to just one understanding. That is, it's not long epochs of time. It is a single day. It's not millions of years. It's not thousands of years. It's not even a year. It's a single day. And those that disbelieve that just disbelieve God. That's all there is. Having to deal with teenagers sometime, or even with adults who want to balk at this, I just ask the question, if God, all-powerful, can create, could he have created everything in 6 seconds? Could he have done that? All-powerful, could he have created everything in 6 seconds? And they'll say, well, yeah. All right, if he created it in 6 days and said he did, you're calling him a liar? All right, he's telling you he did it in 6 days. And he's telling you that all of creation was done in a matter of 6 days. You say he could do it in 6 seconds. If he can do it in 6 seconds, he can do it in 6 days. Man, that would be easy for him. But simply because somebody else, atheists say, it must be billions of years, that's the only reason you've latched onto that. That's the only reason. And the fact of the matter is, until atheists needed more time to be able to come up with stories, because they know these things can't just develop in 6 days. They know that. Therefore, they have to allow for more time. For millions of years, billions of years, and it just keeps getting longer and longer and longer. Until that point, that is, when atheists needed time, nobody ever said this was anything other than a day. Nobody did. Everybody agreed what the text was. Now, let's talk about, because it mentions some things in this. It mentions that of grass, of herbs, trees that yield fruit. All right, so let's talk about grasses. Anybody know what that is? But you're close. It is a grain, yes. It is a grain. It's rice. Okay. It's the same, it is in the grass, among the grasses. All right. And yeah, I recently told a child who was asking about corn, what was corn? I said, corn is in fact a grass. And we eat grass. Well, yeah, wheat is a grass, rice is a grass. Can we eat blades of grass? Well, go ahead. I don't, but I'm not going to stop you if you want to. But here we have this variety of rice. There is this quite a variety of rice. And if here in the States, really years earlier though, we pretty much had just a limited view of what rice was. There was wild rice, yeah. There was long grain, there was short grain. Yeah, that's kind of it. All right, and we didn't want our rice sticking together, whereas in other parts of the world they do. They've got what they refer to as sticky rice, and they have, which is highly glutinous, and they have other types of rice. And yeah, we've go to certain grocery stores today, and you'll see a lot more different varieties of it. Now, here we have more grass. What is that? That is corn. That's exactly what that is. And corn is a grass as well. And corn produces corn. We have a wide variety of that as well. But corn produces corn. Corn doesn't suddenly become something else. And this is recognizable. Even if you've never seen colored other than yellow or white, or kind of a cream color. Even if you've never seen corn in a different color, you recognize, yeah, that's corn. You recognize it. And then we have that of herbs. And this too is from each has its own seed in this. But I want to address something that is being brought up concerning grasses, herbs, and fruit trees. And we'll get fruit trees in just a second. But what do we get from this? What do we get nutritionally from this or from this? What do we get? Carbohydrates? Yeah, carbohydrates. All right. Do you need carbohydrates? Actually, you do. Now, we're in such a development that, it's good if I limit mine, though I enjoy it. You talk about comfort food. Carbohydrate is just comfort. And therein is something. One, carbohydrates are also known as being relatively cheap. They are. Wheat and rice and corn and oats, Those are and barley, those are relatively cheap things to produce. Potatoes, that's another one. It's not among the grasses, but that's another one. Matter of fact, it was the potato that was basically the food at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, where you have workers who can be fed on potatoes, and it didn't take as many farmers to produce a lot of potatoes. And when you have something like a potato famine in Ireland, yeah, that's when things go wrong, and they had to get out of there. But you have something involved in this that I've only been hinting at. One is nutrition. I've already mentioned that. But there's something else that is among this, and we can put this in here. Now, have any of you, this looks like sage right there. Have any of you ever had a meal on sage? You just got a bunch of sage and just ate a bowl of sage. Okay, why didn't you do that? Well, I think you might starve from it. I don't know. I have no idea. But no, you don't do that. There is something that herbs are providing that make things like this taste better, because these are bland. These, as much as I like corn, really it's a mild flavor. You got the sweet corn, yeah, but it's still a mild flavor. And you if you've ever heard of, I know you have that, like street corn, of where they put whatever they're dashing on top of it. Yeah, and it is, you have this that is put into various other foods. That this does not make the bulk of your diet, but it's added to something to make it taste better. Now, under accidents and cosmic happenstance, this doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. This was purposefully, like star anise and cinnamon, or that could be cassia, I don't know. That doesn't happen by accident, to where these things have their own unique taste, and then comes around a being that can truly appreciate the taste. That doesn't happen. It is where somebody made these. You don't want to eat a bowl of sage, but do you like sage in something else? Sage in, like, with turkey or with chicken or with dressing or with however you're going to do it. Yeah, in sausage, yeah. That tastes pretty good. And there may be a certain fish that goes well with sage. I don't know. I haven't tried it. But we can leave sage alone. We can go to rosemary. We can go to basil. We can go to marjoram, whatever. But there is somebody had an interest that you had a quality of life, that you could enjoy certain things in life. And this shows a love and a wisdom. This shows it. That, and I could talk about food all day. I'm getting hungry. No, that you have these things that exist. Not only do they enhance or change a flavor. If you've ever had curries are a mix of these things, and you have, wow, I didn't know you could get that flavor ever. But you have all that. But there's also something else that these provide. There's something else. It's multi-purpose. What else do they do?
Sometimes it's like medication.
Yes. What do you think a lot of our medication is based off of? It's based off of what's found in herbs, or what's found maybe in a tree, or what's found in the botanical world, that they figure out, oh, well, if we extract this, or if we can produce this is something that helps. To me, that looks like peppermint. I think it is. It's in the mint family, whatever it is. But peppermint makes things taste good. Pepperminty, if you like. Yeah, I don't want peppermint with certain things, but in a tea, it's very good. and it is also healthy for you. And but same thing with star anise or with any of these oregano, with any of these others, that there is a medicinal factor to it. Not just adding flavor to something, but there's a medicinal factor to it. Well, is that accidental, and how could it be? We keep looking at it looks like like I'm continuing to beat a dead horse. Well, yeah, the horse is dead. Let's just everybody walk away from that horse. Let the thing alone. Leave it alone. But and the dead horse, I mean, is the idea that there is no God. That's the dead horse. Atheism is dead. God's not dead. Atheism is absolutely, it's a dead end. Now, each one has, we can look at various plants that, and yes, as some of y'all know, dandelions are edible, and they are in the herb family. But we also come to fruit trees. And with fruit trees, as a kid, I loved fruit. Why do you think I love fruit? It's sweet. That's exactly right. You didn't, if you wanted to keep your blueberries when they're ripe, you didn't want me around, because I'm spending the day at your blueberry bushes. That's what I'm going to be doing. And when I was a kid, I would not wait for these to get ripe. I know it, because I love the sour too. And all the adults would say, "You're going to get a stomach ache." And I just laugh at it. No, I'm not. And I just eat green apples. And what was that? No, actually, I did not. You adult, you. No, I didn't. I never got a stomach ache from eating them. And but then, once they got riper, I'd have to say they were better that way. They were certainly sweet at that point and not sour. But I enjoyed the sour too. But this falls into that category again of a flavor. Apples have a flavor profile that you immediately recognize that's apple. And an orange also has its own profile. And a banana has its own profile of where you taste these things and oh yeah, that's obviously a banana. You know it, not just by shape or by color or anything like that. Not just by that, but there's also the next part of this, just like with the herbs, there is an interest that you have an enjoyment in life. There's a nutritional value in this, and there's also health benefits that are in it. Any of you like scurvy? Just asking. Okay, these have vitamin C, as well as many other fruit. Other fruit have vitamin C, of where you get some fruit, and you're good for the day anyway. You may need. It depends on how much you lack in vitamin C. But we're going to look at this. There's a lot of apple varieties, and more than I could possibly put on a screen. There's more, but they all have something in common. One, they have the same sort of apple profile, not just in shape. And you see there's quite a difference in color. We have darker ones, and we have some that just remain green, some that go more toward a yellowish, golden color. But many of them are red, or a mix of red and green, or what have you. But easily recognizable as an apple, but also tasting like an apple. And yes, you can cross-pollinate different varieties and come up with something else. And that has happened a lot. I just recently found out that the Granny Smith was kind of an accident. It was a woman whose name was Smith. Yes. She was a grandmother, and they called it the Granny Smith because of her. But she had cross-pollinated a couple of different trees, and there was this a tree that was produced out of that, and when it produced fruit, it was really good fruit. And so She then, I guess, began to popularize it, or somebody popularized it anyway, and that variety really came into being and is, in my opinion, one of the best apples around, though it's hard to say. There's a lot of good ones. All of this, what? Going back to Genesis and what was said concerning there, and that there was an interest in God in more than just feeding us. That's part of it. It's more than a greater interest than that, though that is big. That's extremely big. But He starts from the very beginning, knowing what we're going to need. Starts from the very beginning, and knowing it's not just going to be Adam and Eve and in the Garden of Eden. It's going to be billions of people all over the world. We have to close it down for today. Appreciate everyone being with us, and hopefully next week we can continue. Thank you.